Welcome to the first story in our series, 5 Surprising Origins of the Things We Measure. Before gold bars and paper bills, what was the most valuable commodity in history? For the ancient Romans, it was salt. In the Roman Empire, salt was crucial for preserving food, and was a necessity that was difficult to acquire for legionaries stationed far from the sea. Because of its reliable value and necessity, a portion of the payment given to Roman soldiers and civil servants was often provided in the form of salt or a stipend specifically for purchasing it. This practice gave us a word we still use today: salary. The word comes from the Latin word salarium, which referred to that payment to buy salt. So, every time you get paid, you are participating in a linguistic link to the ancient Roman system of measurement and commerce, proving that some of the most basic elements of life are also the most powerful historical markers. Next, we find out why your ruler used to be based on the size of a king's foot.
When you measure distance, you use a ruler, a foot, or a yard. But for centuries, these measurements were chaos. The foot was literally based on the length of a local chieftain's or a king's foot. A yard was frequently defined as the distance from the nose of King Henry I of England to the tip of his outstretched thumb. This meant that when a new ruler took the throne, the accepted dimensions for trade, building, and land contracts would often change. This inconsistency led to endless fraud, confusion, and disputes, making accurate construction or long-distance trade nearly impossible. The breakthrough came in the early modern era when the French National Assembly finally established the meter in 1799. The meter was defined as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the North Pole to the equator along the meridian passing through Paris. By grounding length in a fixed scientific standard of the Earth itself, the meter ended the rule of royal body parts for much of the world. For countries that continued to use the old imperial units like the foot, that unit had to be officially redefined in the 20th century to be consistent. This means the modern international foot is precisely defined as exactly 0.3048 meters, ensuring even older measurements are finally built on a stable scientific foundation. Next, why are diamonds weighed using a tiny ancient seed?
When you buy a diamond or any precious stone, its weight is measured in carats. But where did this strange unit come from? The term carat comes from the Ceratonia siliqua tree, commonly known as the carob tree. This tree grows in the Mediterranean and Middle East, and its seeds were widely used by early jewel merchants as a unit of mass. The belief among these merchants was that the seeds of the carob tree were remarkably uniform in weight, providing a small, consistent standard. The process began in the Iron Age and continued through the Age of Exploration as trade routes spread. Merchants would use these seeds to counterbalance gold and precious stones on a scale. While modern science has confirmed that carob seeds are not perfectly uniform, the tradition stuck. When the unit was officially standardized in the 20th century, its weight was set to exactly 200 milligrams, preserving the name of the humble carob seed in every diamond transaction today. Next, the secretive scientist who defined how hot is hot with the Fahrenheit scale.
The temperature scale we know as Fahrenheit was developed by the Polish-German physicist Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit in the early modern era. Fahrenheit was famous for being one of the first to use mercury instead of alcohol in his thermometers, allowing for more precise and higher range measurements. The key to the Fahrenheit scale was establishing fixed, repeatable points. He defined the 0-degree point not by the freezing point of water, but by a mixture of ice, water, and salt, ammonium chloride, which achieves the lowest temperature reproducible in a lab at the time. He set the second fixed point, 32 degrees, at the freezing point of pure water. It is commonly believed that he originally set 96 degrees as the third fixed point based on the human body's average temperature, although his later calibration changed the normal body temperature to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The adoption of the Fahrenheit scale in countries like the United States was largely a matter of early commercial success and consistency, as the quality and repeatability of Fahrenheit's own thermometers were superior at the time, establishing his system as the default. Next, the metric system, an unenforced law of the land in the United States.
Did you know that the metric system is the unenforced law of the land in the United States? It's true. The Metric Conversion Act of 1975 declared the metric system the preferred system of weights and measures for United States trade and commerce.
This significant shift in our measurement system will begin implementation next year, affecting everything from road signs to product labeling.
For a generation of Americans, this wasn't just a law, it was homework. The government began an earnest attempt to start the conversion process, pushing metrics into everyday life. This is why many of you, especially if you were in school in the late 70s and 80s, were suddenly learning kilometers, liters, and grams alongside your miles, quarts, and pounds. However, the act made conversion voluntary, and the public pushback was immediate and immense.
My dad says the metric system is for communists.
Changing road signs, product labels, and millions of cultural habits proved too unpopular and too expensive for businesses and consumers. Think of the cost of replacing every gas pump and changing every single highway speed limit sign. To manage this ambitious effort, the Act created the U.S. Metric Board, or USMB, to coordinate the voluntary shift. But facing a slow pace and mounting criticism, the USMB was ultimately abolished in 1982.
If the USMB is abolished, why do we still need to learn metric?
Despite this, the government policy was reinforced in 1988 with the Omnibus Trade and Competitiveness Act. This act didn't force the public to switch, but it did mandate that all federal agencies use the metric system in their own business, like grants and purchases, to support U.S. industry that operates globally. Today, the original 1975 law is still on the books, defining the metric system as the preferred standard, even though most of the country continues to use imperial units. It's a perfect historical marker proving that sometimes even an act of Congress can't measure up against cultural tradition. And that completes our series, 5 Surprising Origins of the Things We Measure. Be sure to subscribe to Short Bites of History.